welcome back, everybody, to Borderland Talk. Today with me is my friend and immigration attorney, Mo Goldman. As usual, him and I get into lots of shit down here on the southern border. It is July 17th, 2026, and we know that there's a lot going on, but I wanted to talk to Mo about what is going on with DACA because we talked quite a few months ago, and what we realized just privately in talking and then looking at the news is that so the agency that provides the renewals for legal residency and DACA and workers permits is called USCIS, and under Trump 2.0 they've turned it into a law enforcement agency. The administration stated they needed to reevaluate how these processes, the permitted processes and the renewals is going on, and that it was a national security issue. Mo and other people like me were saying, oh no, this is just going to be used to halt their paperwork and then force them into being out of status. And that's what we've seen. They've taken millions of dollars from DACA and worker permits and other people, and they're not doing any kind of processing whatsoever. And then the people who are trying to do it the legal way and have been doing it the legal way suddenly find themselves undocumented and quote unquote illegal. And then USCIS then turns around and hands those legal documents that people have paid for and tried to do the right way and hands them over to ICE so that ICE can then go to their homes and pick them up. That's diabolical. And that is,
Yeah, it is.
it's terrible. So, but
It's
you
terrible.
focused on, and we started talking about this. What I'm seeing though, Mo, is a lot of people like. So I had mentioned this in social media and stuff so that reporters could know what was going on, and then I see them start picking it up, but they're still kind of framing it as, oh, this is a national security review and they're doing their best, so they're still giving the administration the benefit of the doubt. But what we're seeing now, and especially with what is going on with this one client you have in particular, Carla Toledo, is that what we feared is what's actually going on, and what we see in like TPS, temporary protected status,
Mhm.
where they are creating undocumented people because they quite honestly just don't have enough immigrants that have committed crimes like they have told everybody. So they've been lying. Um, you want to tell us a little bit about the Carla story and how this started and how
Sure.
you got involved?
Of course. So, well, thanks for having me again with you, Jen. I always appreciate this. It's almost like a therapy session to to tell these stories and
It
to
is.
share what's going on. One of the things that really stands out to me is historically in Tucson, where I'm located at the immigration court, um, the mass majority of people who are in the deportation proceedings in the non-detained court in Tucson are Spanish speakers. And
Mm.
there's an interpreter there to speak, translate for them. Um, I was there a few weeks ago, and there were four respondents, people who are facing deportation, all fluent English speakers,
Uh-huh.
all sounds every single one of them sounded like they had been in the US the mass majority of their life. Two of them were my clients, and they both were here since they were infants. And that's what we're seeing right now is the numbers are not reflecting what the government was hoping for as far as the so-called criminal aliens that are out there. And so now they're just trying to boost the numbers because at the end of the day, they have to fill the beds. They have to meet their promise to the private prison industry that has invested, billions of dollars in this,
Right.
and that private industry wants to get a return on their investment. So that's what we're seeing right now. And so in the case of Carla Toledo, they five ICE agents on May 18th showed up at her home. She was living there with her husband. He's Venezuelan. She's from Mexico. She came to the US when she was only a year old. She's 31 now, so she spent 30 years of her life in this country.
Okay.
Um, she's had DACA since it came out in 2012. She originally got it in October of 2012, so she was one of the earliest people to get DACA. And DACA is a legal protection. It's not a permanent status, but it is a protection. And it was created as a buffer or a way to give people some form of ability to have a life in this country. People who came here as children, give them a work permit, give them a social security number, um, so they can be productive. And in order to get it, the person has to go through a vetting process. They undergo background checks, and they're basically coming out and exposing that they're not documented in the US. So
Mm-hmm.
we knew when DACA came around, there was always going to be a risk that it could backfire, that the government could use that information to go after those individuals. The funny thing is, when it came out, we were afraid that Mitt Romney was going to be that person. I mean, think about how long ago that was, and how now it looks like Mitt Romney, is like the kind, gentle guy. But
Yeah.
because he was talking about self deportation,
Right.
back in September of 2012, before the election, there was a debate, and he brought that up. There was a lot of fear that
Yeah.
people who file for this could be on a list. So Carla Toledo had renewed her DACA probably about 6 times now. It gets renewed every 2 years. She undergoes a vetting process each time. She was following the law. She works. She's a community, um, you know, kind of just somebody who's out there in the community and is known. And I think she has, or at least at the time that she got arrested by ICE on May 18th, she had about 60,000 followers on social media. So
Oh
she
wow,
she
that's more
has a
than I
pretty
have.
big she has a pretty big following.
Yeah. Yeah.
So ICE showed up. Her husband went outside to or he was going off to work in the morning. He's from Venezuela. He has an asylum application in process
Mm-hmm.
that was going on in court, and his court case got terminated, dismissed. Actually, it got dismissed because at that time the government introduced temporary protected status, TPS,
Okay.
for Venezuelans. So, as an agreement between ICE and the court and him, and I wasn't his lawyer, but his lawyer, they agreed to have the case dismissed without prejudice, which
Okay.
means it could always be brought back to court, but so that he could have TPS and just be able to be out of the risk of being deported.
Right.
I think that was like in 2022.
But it saves the
So,
court time when they do that too. Like if you can
yeah,
get
it's a
TPS, then that kind of supersedes the
well,
and
and
the
there's a
yeah.
huge backlog of cases. I think
Right.
it's like well over 4 million cases in the backlog in
Mm-hmm.
immigration court. I don't know. The numbers are probably even well beyond that now, but anyway, so he had driven away and realized that there was an item in the car that his wife needed. So he drove back to their place,
Mm-hmm.
got out of his car, and as he was walking back to the house, I think it was two black unmarked vehicles drove up in front, and this was all caught on a surveillance camera.
Mm-hmm.
And the ICE agents all jumped out, um, called out a name that wasn't his name, and he got spooked because, well, who wouldn't get spooked by
With everything that's going on right now.
armed ICE
Yeah.
agents jumping out of a vehicle would freak me out. So he was like, all right, I'm
Did
going
he
into
know
the
they were ICE
house.
agents? Let me ask you
Well,
that.
they
Do
had
you know?
police, they
Just
had
a vague
the,
police thing,
yeah,
right?
you know how they do that.
Yeah, that you
I
can
always
buy off
say,
of Amazon.
I
Yeah.
know, I always say, you can't spell police without ice. Um, it's true. I mean, yeah. So pull ice,
Police.
pull ice. So
Mr. Police.
he went into the house. I mean, quickly, and they chased after him, and then they busted the door open, and you could hear Carla saying, "What are you guys doing? Do you have a judicial warrant? A warrant signed by a judge?" I mean, she was testing them on it.
Mhm.
One of the agents kind of fell into the house, and she gave him a nudge and was like, "Get out of my house." I don't blame her for doing that. The agent then
I would say
said,
self-defense, quite honestly. So
"Yeah,
we don't know
well,
who you are.
I call him Agent Karen."
Okay.
Turned around and said, "That's an assault." And I was like, dude, it's an assault like if a fly landed on your head. Okay.
Sure.
Um, stop, stop being dramatic. Then they were claiming that they were in hot pursuit of somebody who they weren't actually going after.
Just demonstrates how bad immigration agents know actual law.
Keystone cops, right?
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness, yes. Yeah, yeah.
So, so they wouldn't leave, and they end up telling her that she needed to come outside, and so she adhered to what they were saying.
Did she have
um
children in the house
no
at the
children.
time?
Yeah, no, they
Okay.
don't have any. No one else was in the home, and
Okay.
they're just a couple with no kids. um she came outside, they arrested her. Why? What did she do? She didn't do anything. She has
They didn't
DACA.
tell her why she was being arrested, or were they arresting her for this
um
horrid assault?
I don't think they even understood why they were arresting her. I mean, it's funny. ICE agents don't have to sit there and read you your Miranda rights or anything.
Nope.
And so it was just like, all right, we're taking you. So they
Well, I
took
mean,
her.
if they were arresting her for assault, they would have had to have legally
They
would
should
have
have
had
called
to have
law
arrested
enforcement.
Miranda rights. No, they could
Yeah.
arrest her for the
Oh, they
assault,
could
but
do that, but they would have had to read her Miranda rights. And
yeah, and
I
and
don't
so
think
that
they
tells me
did.
then that they are arresting her for what they figure is an immigration violation, since they
Yeah.
didn't read her Miranda rights, and then you like you're saying like they called out somebody's name and it wasn't their name, so it sounds once again like these recent shootings we've seen where it's like, yeah, we're going out to target this one person. Oh wait, there's a brown person. Let's get that brown person kind of thing,
Exactly.
and then that's how it. Yeah.
Well, the story gets even more crazy. So that day, I got a call from somebody. I was in Phoenix, not in Tucson, telling me what happened. I said, "We need to get people to the ICE office. We need to get Adelita Grijalva, the congresswoman, if we can." We got them in touch with Adelita. She shows up, goes to the office. They won't let a lawyer in to talk to Carla. And I
Can you
forget if they
explain
let
how that is that they cannot allow lawyers? How it is that immigration can deny lawyers to clients?
they shouldn't do that. I
They
mean,
shouldn't.
they're no, you have a right to a lawyer. The lawyer had a G-28 form, which is a notice of attorney,
Hmm.
which traditionally, if it wasn't already signed, they'll let the person go in, the lawyer go in and get it signed by the individual. But they wouldn't let the lawyer in. So then instead of just releasing her, they took her to Eloy
That
Detention
is true.
Center.
Hmm.
By Wednesday, the media was all over this story, of course. And the ICE spokesperson, Monica Yoas,
Hmm.
she put out a statement that had falsities in it and victim blaming,
Hmm.
like we've seen. She accused Carla of committing assault. She accused her of entering the country illegally.
As a 1 year
Um,
old.
well, here's the thing. Carla had entered without legal status when she
Uh-huh.
first came here as a 1 year old. You know, how 1 year olds come walking across the border surreptitiously all the time.
Like the terrorists
Um,
that they are. Yeah.
yeah. Um, and then, she, in 2024, got advanced parole, which is a travel document to allow her to leave and come back. Now, that advanced parole document it was ambiguous because in one spot it said it was only good for one entry to come back. And
Okay.
then in another spot, it said it was good for multiple entries. So
Okay.
Carla had left twice.
Uh-huh.
And they were arguing that the second admission wasn't lawful,
But didn't
even
she
though the
enter through
form
CBP
she
inspections?
made so she got inspected.
So I would think that if she didn't have that right at the time, CBP
Mhm.
should have caught that, but they
So they
didn't.
were
So
trying to
basically, they're saying our
come
own
up with
agents got it wrong.
excuses. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they're scrambling to come up with an excuse. They know that they have egg on their face and they're lying. So I tell our little team, I say, you know what? They want to drive the narrative, just like they've driven the narrative or tried to do that with Alex Preddy, with Renee Good, and with others in this situation by lying and besmirching them. Um, and I said, we got to take it to them. And so we did a press conference right in front of the ICE office. Her mom showed up, tearful. I mean, it was a perfect, setup,
Mm-hmm.
as far as like getting the narrative, taking it back and saying
Mm-hmm.
these guys are not being honest. By Thursday of that week, so 3 days after, she was still in Eloy. I wrote a letter to ICE Enforcement and Removal Operations, to their director, of the field office in Phoenix. And I asked if they would consider releasing her. And an hour later, I get a call from an ICE agent saying she's going to get a $1,500 bond. And if that gets posted, we'll let her go by tomorrow.
Hmm.
And I'm like, if that's not an admission of guilt, I don't know what is, because ICE these days they're not doing that.
Right.
Why are they releasing her on a $1,500 bond when they're fighting tooth and nail and everybody else? I'm not gonna, you know,
Look a
be
gift horse in the mouth,
disappointed.
right?
I'm
Yeah.
like, good. So they released her. She has DACA still. Um, and uh and they still charged her with being deportable. So on I think it was like June 2nd, June 1st, I filed a motion to dismiss the proceedings based on the fact that she has DACA.
Mm-hmm.
And I showed all the equities, showing all the good stuff she's done. I mean, you've really got to, blow the judge away with that, um, because that's what we're up against.
Right.
And then I asked ICE if they would agree to my motion. They didn't respond until late that evening or later that afternoon. By then, I had already filed it because her hearing was going to be on June 3rd, that
Mm-hmm.
Wednesday, I think it was. And on the morning of the 2nd, the Tuesday, and hopefully I got the dates right, one of their higher level ICE attorneys emailed me and said that they wanted to do a motion to dismiss and asked if I would agree to do that. But in her request, she also noted that they wanted to then recharge her and put her in deportation proceedings now with her husband. So they weren't being all that kind. They just wanted
Wow.
to recharge her. So literally the case got dismissed.
So are they saying then, are they saying that the original case they find they're not going to win, they find fault with this is advantageous for us to go forward. But if
No,
we create a new
I think
charge, then we can go
no.
under that.
Here's what their theory was.
Okay.
It was the exact same set of charges.
Huh.
They said they can face deportation together as a couple.
Oh, is that their gift?
Yeah, that was their gift.
Jesus
And
Christ.
by the way, in their motion, they said that they were filing it due to changed circumstances. And I was like, what circumstances have changed? Nothing's changed except you guys look like assholes and
Yeah.
liars. Um, I I did not agree to sign on to their motion. In fact, I did not want the judge to sign either order until I could get into court on that Wednesday and put their feet to the fire and ask the ICE attorney what circumstances have changed.
Yeah.
Please tell the judge, enlighten us. Tell us what exactly has changed, because nothing has fucking changed. Everything's the same.
Yeah.
You guys are awful. End of story. So
And wrong.
unfortunately, the judge already signed it. And so we didn't have a hearing on that Wednesday, and then they recharged her, and now we're fighting her deportation and her husband.
Is she in custody or out of custody?
Now she's out.
Okay. Is her husband
Um,
in custody?
no, he's out, which is the other thing that's funny is that they supposedly were chasing her husband, but they arrested her.
Yeah.
They didn't even know who they
That's
were
what I said.
chasing.
They're just looking
Yeah.
for any brown person just
Any
to meet
person.
that quota.
Yeah.
That's it.
Now, not only is she not in custody, but she is so courageous. She has also agreed to help other. I mean, she's not like just trying to save her own hide.
Yeah.
She's using this as like a pay it forward thing where she helps others, and she's helping some of my other young kind of dreamer types at this point. She's just a wonderful person, and my heart breaks for people like her and others that are being, uh, you know, numbers to this government. That's it. That's all she is. She and I showed up this morning at a protest to our representative Juan Ciscomani. He represents both me and Carla and I, actually, better English. She probably would say it better than I do. Carla and I were there, and she had a sign that we realized that this Republican representative, who's an immigrant himself, who became a naturalized citizen, came here as a kid, and he was born not too far from where she was born in Sonora, Mexico. And he came here with his family. And we're not 100% sure how he got through the process, but he got a green card based off of his father. And a little bit peculiar.
Is he pulling that ladder up behind him?
He pulled the ladder up behind him.
Yeah.
And so in 2024, he put out a tweet that said that he would protect DACA recipients. Well, let me ask you, Jen, do you think he's reached out, tried to help, despite our attempts to get him to help and live up to his promise?
The only congressional representative that I've seen working on Carla's case is Representative Adelita Grijalva, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Correct. Who's not
Democrat.
her representative
Yeah.
in our district. Our district is CD6 and Adelita's is CD7. That is the difference between a representative and somebody's a tool of fascism and Donald Trump. That's it.
And trying to save themselves, quite honestly.
So we had a protest.
The work of a fascist to save themselves.
Yeah. And maintain his power and his job. That's all he cares about. He's just a craven, power-hungry politician. So we went to his office this morning. There was a protest in front of his office. And she had a sign that had that tweet on it and said, hey, you got the American dream. He touts it. He boasts about it.
I did it
What
the
about
right
the
way, I'm
rest
sure
of
he
us?
says, right?
Exactly. When
Yeah.
he was a
Yeah.
kid, he did it the right way, supposedly,
Mm,
even though he had probably no idea how his dad did it.
yeah.
And so we went up to his office so that we could give him a copy of that sign to remind him that he's not living up to what he said he would do in December of 2024.
Mm.
And they wouldn't open the door for us. They wouldn't let us in. And so we left it outside, and hopefully the message is loud and clear. I mean, we're letting them know that we're watching them, and we're going to let the public know.
So they wouldn't let you into Representative Siscomani's office, but don't you all pay your taxes and pay for that office?
Yep, we do. And that's what I told them over the little speaker ring camera thingy. I said, we are taxpayers, and this is taxation without representation. This office and the people, the staff, everything in there is paid for by me and Carla and the constituents of his district, along with the rest of the taxpayers in the United States.
Yeah.
And we have a right to walk in and talk to them.
Yeah.
We don't pose a threat. I even told her, I said, we come in peace.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And they wouldn't let us in. And then just like a mouse
You
coming
should
out of
come
a
back
little.
with MAGA hats and stuff.
Well, no,
You
I
know,
was
like
thinking
that really
show up with
American
like a
thing that you
veteran
wore.
hat, yeah, and see if
Yes.
they let
Yeah.
me in. I mean, I
Yeah.
wouldn't want to do stolen valor or anything, but it was funny. We went down the staircase. We were down there just kind of talking with some of the people in the media about it, and it got recorded. Everything's been recorded.
Okay.
Um, but it was funny. It was kind of like, if you put a piece of cheese in front of a little mouse hole, the mouse will come out, take the cheese, and run back. The
Yeah.
door opened. They took the sign. The door shut.
Oh my God. Oh my God. They, like, you see a little hand come out.
And then
Wink.
his chief of staff came walking up down the walkway from where we were, saw us, did a U-turn, and went the other way to get into his office. What a coward! We even yelled out his name.
So I assume that the assault charge against Carla has been dropped, right?
There was never an assault charge.
Oh, so just
They
the
never charged her
accusation
with
of
anything.
an assault.
If anything, these agents could potentially be facing charges
Yeah,
for
they should.
breaking and entering,
Yeah,
for
violating
kidnapping. They
her, yeah,
kidnapped
Fourth
her.
Amendment rights. They kidnapped her.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
didn't have a right to go in there. They didn't have a judicial warrant. They had no right to bust that door open.
yeah.
So there is an investigation right now. There's
Oh,
an
yeah.
investigation.
Okay.
Yeah. And
By whom?
there's by the county
Okay.
attorneys looking into it.
Okay.
We'll see. I don't know. I mean, we got to
What
hold
county
these
is
people
this?
accountable. Pima County.
Okay, Pima County. We'll see.
I mean, yeah.
It's
So,
better than
anyways,
Cochise.
so I could tell you about what happened in court yesterday if you want to hear this one.
Yeah.
And then you can ask me whatever you want to ask. But it was one, honestly, it's hard to be more demoralized than I have been, previously, because as you're well aware, this is exhausting, for anybody that has a heart that cares like you or I. And to see the just increase of fascist behavior, the increase of cruelty, it's heartbreaking. And I think yesterday it came to a head for me. I mean, you have those moments where you're like, I don't know if I can just keep waking up and doing this stuff. You and I have talked about the the mental health consequences, physical
Yeah.
health consequences, how hard it is. Um, I have a client who is a man in his mid 20s. He's been here since he was around 8 years old. Um, he came here, no choice of coming to
Hmm.
the US, finished high school, um, you know, has no criminal history. He had to survive, so he worked without authorization, like many people do. Um, and he came to me with his wife, who's a U.S. citizen,
Hmm.
just a beautiful young couple. And when I talk to them, I have to assess what are going to be the potential positives or what are the liabilities potentially in your application to try to get a green card.
Right.
Because he was eligible to get a green card through his US citizen wife
Hmm.
to do it the right way, the so called right way. Um, but the one thing that I knew was going to be an issue as I assessed it was that when he went to Mexico in 2024, because he had a visa,
Okay.
so he was, somebody who actually had a visa to come to the US. And so he went back to Mexico to renew his visa,
Hmm.
thinking he was, supposed to do that. Um, and when he filled out the application, he put down an address in Mexico
Hmm.
as his address instead of putting a U.S. address. Now, a lot of people have done that historically. And what you have to do is you apply for the green card and you fall on your sword and you admit that you did wrong. And our system has a pardon. You can ask for forgiveness. And so you have to file a form called an I-601 waiver.
Hmm.
And you have to show that it would be an extreme hardship to the either spouse or parent of the applicant, who is either a citizen or a green card. An extreme hardship is usually based on a variety of factors. Would it be a financial hardship for her if he couldn't stay here? Would it be an emotional hardship? Does she
Hmm.
have medical issues and so forth? So we had a good hardship waiver. Generally, historically, this type of pardon would be approved. This takes us to what you said at the outset of our conversation, which is the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, USCIS, is now an arm of ICE.
Hmm.
They've named a lot of their new officers Homeland Defenders. They are taking a much more hardline approach on everything. And they denied his waiver.
Do they
Again,
have
he's
to give
trying
a
to do,
basis for denying it, or do they just
yeah, they
deny
said
it?
there wasn't enough hardship.
Ah, okay.
You couldn't show hardship, even though I think based off of the way the law is written and what the requirements are, we did have evidence of that, which I can't divulge, but that there was definitely sufficient hardship evidence.
Okay.
Um, and so they denied it, and it's a young couple, doesn't have a lot of means. I told them, I said, look, we're going to try to figure out what to do because historically, if this gets denied and the person's not like someone with like a, significant criminal issue, they're not going to arrest and detain the person.
Hmm.
They would either let us refile and try it again,
Hmm.
and they were trying to just cobble together enough money to refile the application,
Hmm.
or they'll send a notice to appear to go to
Right.
court. And why wouldn't he appear? Because if you go to court, you still have a chance to have a judge review the application. You can renew the green card application before the judge and have a de novo review, they call it, like a
Okay.
new review. So No, we don't live in the times that we were living in before. Last Friday, a week ago, ICE showed up outside his apartment building. He walked out and they arrested him. They took him to Eloy. Over last weekend, I prepared a bond packet to have a bond hearing. It's like a bail hearing to try to argue that he should be released, and that he's not a flight risk. He's not a danger to society.
Mm-hmm.
Seemed relatively obvious.
Yeah.
Um, we had dozens and dozens of letters that we got. Uh, I mean, she gathered so much. The amount of support letters, incredible. All of his school certificates, just a lot of good equities and evidence. And he has an approved petition from his wife called 9130 petition showing that it was a good faith marriage. And all we have to do is ask the judge to review the adjustment of status.
Mm-hmm.
So there's really no basis to deny him bond, to let him go out, because the argument I made to the judge was, look, he has every reason to show up in court. He's
Yeah.
not going to disappear. He wants to get his green card.
And where did you think
And
even if he did disappear, though, Mo? I mean, the legal argument is like, so what is ICE going to argue? No, he's going to go back to Mexico. Isn't that what you want anyhow? You want him to go back to Mexico? So it's
you
like,
know, there's
but not without us
it's
punishing him and us forcing him to go back
yeah.
to Mexico. It's like, okay.
So we have this hearing yesterday afternoon, and I say to the judge, I go, look, we've got someone who's been here since he was 8. Um, he not only admitted his fault
Yeah.
and filed for forgiveness, he presented himself to immigration. He's
Mm-hmm.
not running away.
Yeah.
He's actually, I mean, he actually affirmatively showed up at an immigration office to try to fix his documents. Why would he not show? It makes no sense. Um,
Let me
and
ask
I,
you, do you think USCIS gave ICE these and said, go get them? How did
yeah,
that
it got
happen?
handed over to ICE.
This got handed over
100%.
to ICE.
100%.
Somebody doing it the
Again,
legal way. Here you go, ICE.
they're an arm of ICE. They're denying these applications that they might have historically approved so that
Right.
they can go and nab these people. So he, so, so, so the ICE attorney makes this argument that because my client worked without authorization and because he lied on an application, that would make him a threat to, or not a threat, but a high level of risk of flight, and that he will not show up in court. And mind you, if they were really concerned about this, if this was legitimate concern,
Mm-hmm.
they have alternatives to detention. They have ankle monitors and so forth.
Yeah.
So it gets back to me after she makes her argument, and I say to the judge, I was like, I just was like emotionally distraught over this argument, because the argument they made doesn't make any sense in fact or law. Like, how does there's no connection between those two things and not showing up to court when the guy is obviously trying to fix his papers? You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
And she was like, well, he's not to be trusted. And I'm like, well, again, I don't think that working without authorization makes somebody untrustworthy. In fact, it makes them, somebody I would find a little more reliable, because at least I know they're going to actually try to work and do a job. And not being honest on one question on one application does not make somebody inherently untrustworthy.
What
If
about
that
all
was
the
the case,
untrustworthiness of ICE and
yeah.
USCIS?
Well,
But of
I was
course,
going
you
to say, if
can't
that's
argue
the
that.
case,
So,
no. Yeah. So I argue to the judge. I say, look, I will tell you, we're here in court under oath, technically. Um, I have an obligation to be honest. I have been working with this couple for some time now. They were getting the money together to refile the application. He has no reason to disappear. He's going to show up in court. Um, his wife is out in the lobby because they wouldn't even let her back into the courtroom because she had a wire bra on, and it triggered the security, the
You
X-ray
might
machine.
assault an ICE agent with your wire bra.
Well, she even said, look, she was wearing an outfit that wouldn't expose anything. And she was like, I'll take the bra off. I mean, and they would not let her back there. It's
Oh
all
my.
dehumanization. That's the whole thing.
Yep.
So the judge, instead of just setting a bond, denied bond altogether.
Oh my God.
That's who they're holding. Um,
That's who we're
and
spending billions of
we're
dollars to
and
hold.
and they're doing it so that Core Civic can make their whatever you know goals are for their investors.
Do you think it's too far to say that ICE attorneys who represent ICE in court, are actually working for these private detention companies to supply them with product so that they could then make money off of them? I don't know if
I
you want to
think
say that
I
as an
think well,
attorney,
no,
but
I think if it is, it's unwittingly. You know
mm,
what I mean? I think they think
yeah,
they're
not like
doing
they
their
get,
job,
yeah,
and they're representing the government as they're supposed to. They're following orders, but you know they're making arguments that are nonsensical. Like, what sort of argument is that? How do you, with a straight face, make that argument? So I am gonna file a habeas corpus petition. I told his wife that I am going to be on their side to fight this out. I said, I'm not some sort of savior. I'm just here because this is wrong.
yeah,
And as lawyers, we are the guardians of democracy.
yeah.
And right now, that is in peril, and due process is in peril.
Mm.
So I'm going to argue that this
So
was
does the
a,
habeas petition? No, so for those who don't know, a habeas corpus
yeah.
petition is the request to for a judge to evaluate whether you should be held in detention or not, in custody or not.
Mhm.
Does that go to the same judge that you're?
No,
Okay.
that's why. So I have two choices. I can file an appeal to the Board of Immigration Appeals.
Uh
What do you
huh.
think is going to happen with that? It goes to the same,
Rubber stamp it and
yeah,
agree. Yeah.
Executive Office for Immigration Review. It's just going to be rubber stamped. You can go straight to habeas and argue to a district court judge that this administrative judge has violated due process.
Okay. So what you're saying for novices who don't know is you're taking
Mhm.
the habeas takes, because the issue is now the custody, not anything to do with immigration, but
Exactly.
the purpose of his custody or detention. So it
Yeah.
takes it out of the immigration administrative courts and takes it into what we would refer to as like the federal criminal courts, and has a different judge decide that.
Correct. And I will request immediate release,
Okay.
or to have the district court judge evaluate and maybe determine what the bond amount is, because the district court judge has a higher uh, presence as far as uh, being able to overturn what this administrative law judge did.
What are the, is there a normal standard for the bond for these if he does win?
The lowest they usually well, again, someone could be released on their own recognizance. They could be released again with alternatives to detention. The lowest amount that the court will usually set, or will set a bond at, is $1,500.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why I don't want it to be ordered back to this judge is because if this judge has already said that there's no bond for him, then if it gets sent back, who knows? Is the judge going to now set it at 50,000 or 100,000 or some outrageously high number? I can't
Yeah.
trust that.
Yeah.
So I will present the federal court with all the evidence I presented to the immigration court so that they can see what this judge and what the immigration judges are doing to try and hold people that they claim are flight risks.
It kind of reminds me of what we're seeing like with a lot of people, American citizens who are protesting ICE and how immigration makes up these charges and then, arrest them, then they have to bond out, they have to get attorneys, they have to fight it, and then months and months down the road, thousands and thousands of dollars down the road, lost job, all sorts of shit going on because you've been put into the system, is that immigration agents are using the system to punish people,
It's
to
punitive.
wear
Mm-hmm.
them down financially and emotionally. So everyone's like, well, in the end, it'll come out. And it's like, well, you think your job is going to hold your position for that long? You think, and this stuff that it does to people emotionally and just destroys families. So they're using the system
To
to
destroy. Well,
wear
that's,
down people who are
yeah.
trying to do it the legal way.
You know, Stephen Miller and FAIR and these right wing extremist organizations, they have been in favor of this concept of attrition through enforcement.
Yeah.
We can go back to Chris Kobach, and when
Yes.
Russell Pierce, when they introduced SB 1070, the Arizona
Mm-hmm.
immigration law, they came right out and said, this is attrition through enforcement. We want people to give up and leave. That's what they wanted to do. And some people left, but what they wanted was their vision was SB 1070 across the country. So
Mm-hmm.
they wanted Arizona, they wanted then New Mexico, they wanted Texas, they wanted every state to do these like immigration enforcement laws, like the SB
Through the state.
1070 show me your papers law, um, so that people would leave.
Yeah.
And that now we have that. That is
Like
exactly
deterrence for legal immigrants, people trying to do it to the legal way. We're going to make it so
exactly.
hard for you that you decide it's just easier to leave. Yeah.
So I will say right here, shame on the judge, shame on the ICE attorney, shame on anybody who is working for this system right now, because it is absolutely abhorrent. It, as I've said before, harkens back to the way the Nazis treated the people in Germany and Poland and elsewhere back in the 30s and 40s. Um, you know, and by the way, they're killing people, and people are getting sick by the dozens because of outbreaks of measles and tuberculosis in the detention centers.
Yeah.
And this is created by overcrowding, by harsh conditions,
Lack of
by
medical care,
lack of medical care, lack of vaccinations,
cleanliness. Yeah.
and people are going to keep dying. And so maybe it's not ovens, maybe it's not gas chambers. This is a different type of dehumanization, and we can't stand for it.
They flat out admitted like the warehouses, because I remember I was watching or listening to Rachel Maddow, and she said, we've won on a lot of the warehouse things and are going to do it. But one of the things that she was saying is like that she didn't think they knew what they were doing. And other people have said this. I'm just pointing Rachel out just because that's where I heard it was they're not building these warehouses to be inhabited by human beings, and it's like, yeah, that's part of the plan. So this is
That
like
is,
we have deterrence in the border patrol on the southern border where we put walls up and force and then limit who can legally enter and be inspected, which forces people who are fleeing for their lives, looking for safety and asylum, to then cross illegally. And then we essentially, I call it like, the obstacle course of death. and if you can survive it, then you have to
Mhm.
live quietly and underground in the United States in order to then survive afterwards. And so it feels like what I see in ICE detention, and then after the Lake and Riley Act that basically puts everybody in custody, even though they haven't committed a crime,
Mhm.
is this kind of deterrence in these detention facilities, and the goal is to treat you so horribly that then you request to be sent home, and even then they're going to hold you for at least a couple of months to make sure the lesson really sticks, and they get their money out of you for the private prisons. So it's like deterrence in brutality, the way they're treating people in these facilities is it's punishment, which they keep saying immigration deterrence is not punishment. So they don't get to have lawyers and they don't get to have this and that. And it's like, but you are punishing them.
Mhm.
And I know we can't make that argument right now because the courts are against this, the Supreme Court's against everything is owned by the Republicans and the far right now, and the Democrats just don't have much fight. But it's like, what what advice do you give to people? Because I mean, I have friends who have DACA, and I've talked to them and told them what's going on, and they see it. It's
Mhm.
not like I'm telling them anything they don't know, but I just want to make sure. And I'm like, I don't, I'm not an attorney. I can advise you. I don't know what to do. I don't know if I would submit my paperwork for a renewal,
Yeah.
knowing that USCIS is going to turn around and give it to ICE, and then, but at the same time, if you don't, then you're not in the system and not doing it the legal way. And then they can
Yeah.
come and get you for that.
I
Can
think
you?
as a lawyer, um, you have to assess the situation that's around us and give the pros and cons of filing or not filing. Like in the case of someone who I actually saw and mind you, I'll post about these things, but I won't like say who the individual is
Right.
because I can't ethically do that. But I think the public needs to be fully aware of what is happening, that USCIS denied this guy's application and then handed it right over to ICE so that they could go and arrest and detain him and put him into the gulag. As soon as that came out, a good close friend of mine who you've met, and I'll tell you when we're off this, has a relative who is looking at doing kind of the same process for her husband,
Mm-hmm.
and they are scared
Yeah.
because they're like, what happens if he ends up in the same situation? And so I have to be like, look, everything's got risk.
Yeah.
He's either going to be stuck in the same state of limbo or he takes his chance and tries to get his green card through the legal process, but nobody can predict what the future holds. The other thing I have to do is tell people that they need to think about the cost aspect, like do a cost benefit assessment.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you even have a fight in the if it was a case where the person ended up in detention, and do you want to invest and pay money to have legal counsel try to work on this for you, or are you fortunate enough to have legal counsel that's going to do it at a low bono or pro bono rate? But also, you could be spending money that you might be able to just save and use to, start over in a different country or your home country. You know what I mean? Like, I think these are serious questions that and issues that need to be considered by individuals.
It just
So yeah.
it feels
And
like fraud to me, and I don't know what it would be called, but legally, but just as it, it feels like fraud that USCIS is taking
take all this money. Yeah.
millions of dollars from people to process this paperwork, and they just turn it around
Yeah.
and giving it to ICE.
It is it's disgusting. I mean, and when we say money, we're talking about um, for someone to apply for a green card with a work permit application,
Mm-hmm.
it's Let me do the math. It's about $2,500 in filing fees. And
Phew.
if they have to do a waiver on top of it, that's another $1,000. So all of a sudden, you've paid the government $3,500 so that they can treat you like complete shit
Yeah. And just
and try to
say, no,
deport
we're
you.
not going to do it. We're going to hand
No,
your
we're going to
paperwork
take
over to
the
ICE.
money.
Not
Yeah,
going to
I mean,
process anything. Hmm.
and are there good people who work within the government? Who's
It's
still
not
there
about the
doing
people,
it?
it's about the systems. Well, let me
Yeah,
ask you that, and I don't want to take up too much of your time, but
sure.
I mean, you work with ICE officials all the time. You've told me, this one ICE attorney, he's a good guy. We, blah, 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 he's reasonable and this and that. Are there any of those people left? Has anybody that works as an ICE attorney got up and said, I just
Let
cannot do
me
this
let me
anymore?
just tell you, as an example, there's one ICE attorney who I've always had a good appreciation for. Has always been responsive and reasonable.
Hmm.
I have a DACA recipient, a different DACA recipient, who back in before DACA came around, got pulled over on a traffic stop and ended up in removal proceedings. Been here since she was a basically an infant, and again, perfectly clean record. Otherwise, good person, a lot of good equities, and she has DACA and it's going to be valid all the way to January. I prepared a motion to dismiss the proceedings. I sent it over to the ICE attorney and asked if they would, if their office would agree to dismiss the proceedings. The one attorney who I felt was the most reasonable in that office said no, we oppose it. So
So they're going
if
along with it.
they have to. It's their job.
Well,
If
they could
they'll
protest and leave and not do
Yeah,
it,
but
you
they don't
know.
want to. It's too cushy of a job.
Oh God.
They get paid good money, they get benefits, you know.
Yeah, I know.
The courageous
Same
thing to
excuse all
do,
the agents
yeah,
give. Yeah.
the
Yeah.
courageous thing to do would be to walk out and say, I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
There was a judge, you should look if you haven't seen it, or I'll send it to you, Brea Burgee.
Hmm.
She used to be in Tucson for a while. I met her. She's really great. Um, she she just blew the whistle on the government because they were trying to force her, along with all the other judges, to deny cases that shouldn't be denied, to do a lot of things that are not constitutional, not legal. And she finally had enough and came out and said it. And so it's, this is where we're at right now. This is the litmus test of whether you can stand up for what our Constitution means, what its true purpose is,
Yeah.
or whether you're just going to go along and watch as they shred the Constitution and we devolve into fascism.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
it. And so, people have to make choices in life. Um, you know, I'm not going to go down without a fight. I know you're not going to. And the people who are going to sit there and let this happen, like Juan Ciscomani or some of these people working for the Department of Justice or the Department of Homeland Security, someday are going to have to live with knowing that they didn't step up when the time was asking for them to do so, to meet that moment.